we've worked really hard to make sure that we can get there, make sure we continue to get President Trump's agenda moving forward. And we'll continue to work after that to continue to advance the things that we weren't able to get done in this bill, and keep working for the American people.
Perhaps, do you expect it to be on the president's desk by July 4th?
We do. The Senate will take a look at it. I'm sure they'll have some changes. They'll send it back here, and we'll very likely. But again, a lot of progress today, restoring our military, securing our border, freeing up America's energy, all these things we've been talking about for months, the things that President Trump and so many of us campaigned on, the things that the American people voted for, getting a lot of wins in this bill. And again, a good day.
Great to have you with us. Please like, subscribe, and share. Outraged to the Chris Highland Show. Really appreciate everybody rolling up. We have got more winning today. The big, beautiful bill has passed the House. That's our lead story for today. And that leads us right into the Senate. We're going to cover what this process looks like. We're going to cover what's in the big, beautiful bill, some of the compromises that had to get made, and even some of the Republicans that opposed it and why. Thomas Massie being one of them. And I'm not so sure I disagree with him, although a no vote is not the way to go, I don't think, in this case, because we have to get this thing passed. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Trump's agenda. We've got all sorts of things to cover today. Thanks so much for rolling up. Really appreciate everybody being here. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And let's dive right in. The big, beautiful bill has passed, which is a fantastic, because that is the Trump agenda. So the House has finally stepped up. Now, I really wish this was a better big, beautiful bill. I really wish that it had serious budget cuts. I mean, I would love to see a big, beautiful bill that had, actually budget allocations reduced back to 2015, 2016 level spending, which is, I think, where we need to get to in order to balance the budget and start paying off our debt. But there's a counterman to that, and that is we have to have enough votes to pass it in the House, and you have to be able to get enough senators on board. So there had to be some compromises. What is in the bill is obviously a permanent extension of the Trump tax cuts dating back from his first term. So it's essentially the largest tax cut in American history, along with no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. Those two provisions are in there. There's $175 billion for border security and deportations. So the money to actually carry out Trump's mass deportation operation. There is money for defense in there. One of the major compromises that had to be made, which was unfortunate, was that the SALT deduction went from $10,000 to $40,000. What this is basically, this is a giant boondoggle giveaway to blue states. But in order to get some of these blue state congressmen on board, it's something that they had to do, evidently, because these blue state congressmen, are more in it for not what's good for the country, but the pet projects of some of their constituents and they themselves. But what it does is it allows for $40,000 of state and local taxes to be deducted from your federal taxes. It essentially transfers that blue state burden somewhat to other red states through the federal budget process. So unfortunately, that's in there. Now, the Freedom Caucus and the fiscal hawks on the Republican side were able to accelerate the work requirements for able-bodied Medicare, Medicaid recipients to be accelerated into 2026. I believe it ends Medicaid for illegal immigrants. So lots of good things in the bill, which now transits to the Senate. Now, I will say this. There was some opposition to this bill. They could only afford to lose 3 House members, and they lost 2. One voted present, so essentially it abstained. But Thomas Massie was fairly vocal against this bill. We're going to play his speech. It's about a minute. He spoke for 90 seconds in opposition to the bill right before the vote. So let's dive into that, because I can't say that he's wrong. Here we go.
Stand here and tell the American people, we can cut your taxes and we can increase spending and everything's going to be just fine. But I can't do that because I'm here to deliver a dose of reality. This bill dramatically increases deficits in the near term, but promises our government will be fiscally responsible 5 years from now. Where have we heard that before? How do you bind a future Congress to these promises? This bill is a debt bomb ticking. Congress can do funny math, fantasy math, if it wants, but bond investors don't. And this week, they sent us a message. Downgraded our credit rating, and the bond investors who buy our debt and finance our debt demanded higher interest rates on the 10-year note, 20, 30-year note. What does this mean? Very soon, the government will be paying $16,000 of interest alone per U.S. family. And what are we telling them? Instead of taking care of that problem, we're going to give you a $1,600 tax break. Under the taxing and spending levels in this bill, we're going to rack up the author's $20 trillion of new debt over the next 10 years. I'm telling you, it's closer to $30 trillion of new debt in the next 10 years. Mr. Speaker, we're not rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic tonight. We're putting coal in the boiler and setting a course for the iceberg. If something is beautiful.
Now, I cannot say that I disagree with anything that Massey said there. This bill does not have enough spending cuts. That is absolutely true. Now, were they going to get it passed with those spending cuts? I don't know. I wasn't in the negotiations. I wasn't in the budget committee meetings. Like I said, I would love to see a reconciliation bill that actually cuts federal spending by 30%, 60% even. The federal government needs to get smaller and it needs to spend a lot less money. So is he wrong? No. But two things can be true at the same time as long as they're not diametrically opposed. Do we need far more spending cuts? Yes. Do I think this bill will add 20 trillion to the debt? No, I don't. Because with this bill, I think you're going to see sustained economic growth. The percentage of deficit to GDP will go down. I think it'll almost even get it equaled out. So I think, this will be an economic boon to the country. So I don't think it's going to result in the 20 trillion in new debt that he's talking about. I don't think that's true. But at the same time, do we need more spending cuts? Absolutely. But we had to get this bill passed. Trump needed the big, beautiful bill. He needed his legislative agenda to start moving. Now, that doesn't mean we stop here. It's not like we just have one big, beautiful bill and then, let's call it quits. No, Congress needs to stay buckled down and they need to stay working. There are plenty of things that have to get passed out of this Congress. We own the House and the Senate. We need to get major spending cuts passed. We need to get voter ID, single day, paper ballots, citizenship required. We've got to fix elections in this country before the midterms. That's got to be a major priority. So there's lots of things that have to get done. We're going to check in on Byron Donalds because I believe he had some very salient things to say on this very point. So let's check out Byron Donalds, kind of in response to Massey, but Benny Johnson was in his office today talking about the big, beautiful bill. Let's dive right in.
Is it Doge cuts? What's next? Codifying executive orders? What's going on?
The Doge stuff, the rescission package, in my view, that's got to hit the floor. We have to see that package. Let the Senate get the big, beautiful bill to the desk. The rescission package needs to be the next thing. After that, we do need to look at, we're going to have to do some farm bill stuff. Appropriations is coming. And I think we're going to have to start taking a look at FISA again. That comes up again next year. So that stuff's going to start coming into play. But yeah, monumental lift, a lot of people had their hands in this. I know victory laps are being taken this morning, but I can't tell you, man, whether it's, Main Street, Freedom Caucus, House leadership, White House team, the president, a lot of hands went into getting this done. So
absolutely correct. We need another bill right on the heels of this one with major rescission packages. We've got to cut spending. We've got to cement the Doge cuts. All the Doge activities got to be put into law so that it cannot be undone. USAID needs to be permanently defunded. The Department of Education, permanently defunded. U.S. Institute for Peace, permanently defunded. There needs to be some appropriations tied directly to the U.S. payment system that forces, before any payment could be made electronically or via check from the U.S. government. So before the payment system, federal payment system, can actually issue a payment of any type, there has to be a legislative appropriation tied to it. There has to be a cost code. All of that's got to be red threaded so that we can drastically reduce fraud, waste, and abuse that is coming out of government. So there's lots of things that has to get done. Exactly right on the heels of that, we need to see election integrity action. FISA needs to go away. FISA needs to be done away with, essentially. I would love to see this Congress actually get real, and let's pass a rescission of the Patriot Act and get rid of the federal government espionage of its citizens. Lots of things need to get done. But today, let's celebrate that the first step has been taken in the passage of Trump's legislative agenda, which will lead to major economic boons, which will lead to us keeping the House in the midterms and forestalling a ridiculous repeat of the 2016 presidency. So with that, I want to check in. Markwayne Mullin, Senator Mullin, had a very good take on really what the next steps are, how this now gets passed via the Senate, and what this reconciliation process looks like. And I thought it was very interesting. So let's dive into what is step 2 in getting the big, beautiful bill passed.
Good news, the House passed the one big, beautiful bill in the first step. Now, mind you, this is the first step. That's a 3-step. And what I mean by that, they sent it to us, meaning the Senate, what they call the bird rule. I call it the bird bath because it's got to be literally scrubbed. And that means we've got to go through each page. There's over 1,000 pages. We've got to go through each page line by line, making sure it meets the bird rule. Now, what's the bird rule? Well, the bird rule first was enacted in 1985. It was recodified in 1990. And what it basically does is it instructs the Senate. Now, the House doesn't have to deal with the bird rule, just the Senate. It instructs the Senate on what can actually be in it. Once it's finished, which will probably take a week or longer, we'll get it and start working on it. And the best way I can describe it is the House built a really nice, beautiful framed house. They did a great job getting their votes to get it passed. We have to go in and now we're going to pick out the interior colors. We're going to try figuring out what priorities we need to put on to make sure we can get 51 votes here in the Senate. We're also going to be working with the White House, talking to the president every day, making sure we deliver the promises for the American people. And then we're going to send it back to the House. They'll either pick it up or we'll go to conference. That's the 3-step process. Once we figure it out, the president takes it, signs it, and we change America for the better.
Now, let's get this done for the big, beautiful bill. Then let's do the same thing for budget cuts. Let's do the same thing for election voter integrity. We've got lots of work to do in the legislative agenda. Now, so obviously the Dems are in complete and utter freefall at this point. They have lost the presidency. They've lost the Congress. They've lost the Senate, the House and the Senate. The only really check to Americans making America great again is their ridiculous libs in the judiciary. At the same time, the Democrat Party is absolutely melting down from within. You've got Hogg, the newly minted vice chair of the DNC, talking about primarying Democrat members. You've got a massive split in the party between the establishment and the woke, the ultra woke left and the extremely far left establishment, because the entire Democrat Party has shifted so far to the left that they have basically walked away from people like Tulsi Gabbard and Elon Musk and others. The Democrat Party has shifted massively left. But there's the ultra woke communist left, and there's the somewhat more moderate establishment socialist left. But both of them are evil. However, they are locked in a power struggle now over the Democrat Party, and this civil war has absolutely bubbled over into violence, which is to be expected because the Democrat Party is the party of violence. So, great news for today. The big, beautiful bill has passed the House. It's on to the Senate. Until then, share Chris Highland Show with everybody that you know. Thanks so much.